Hmm. 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 This episode. Dash was kind of losing the plot, but the Wonderbolts were kind of being massive jerks at the same time. Gah! I just can't decide how I feel about this episode. Time to call in reinforcements from the Rift Cafe. Now, which spell should I use this time? Ah, here we go. Spin away, Rift Box. Nope, that ain't right. Let's try again. Nope, definitely not. This must be one of Biter's legionnaires. I can never quite be rid of him. Ah, there we go. Welcome to the channel, Miss Bloom.
What? Where? Who? Oh, hi, Nightmare. What am I doing here? I won't ask how I got here. I have a feeling I'd rather not know.
What excellent intuition you have. I have some rather mixed feelings on Newbie Dash, and I was thinking that you could be the one to help balance out your analysis for this episode. You up for it?
You editing?
Does Discord still create chocolate rainstorms?
I'm gonna take that as a yes. Sure, I'm game.
Fantastic. Now I won't have to use the rod of persuasion. You would not believe how much mileage I get out of this thing when it comes to evil minions.
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. Where did you want to start?
Right. Greetings one and all, and welcome to the Mystic Mind Analysis. I am the Nightmare Rider, Major Mind, reminding you, as always, that even a cheeseburger can be deconstructed its original source. Rainbow Dash has finally been accepted as a permanent member of the Wonderbolts, and so this episode focuses on how her eagerness to be a standout member only makes a bad situation worse for her. While Spitfire obviously needs to be tough on the rules of safety, as any commander would do, my issue is how they push Dash to focus on the routine by constantly calling her Rainbow Crash.
Rainbow Dash does have a tendency to spawn hijinks. I feel in their own little way the Wonderbolts were trying to make her feel accepted and try and motivate her, and they were so distracted by trying to get the routine down that they defaulted to what made them comfortable.
I absolutely see the need to focus intensely on this routine, especially considering that Dash's debut show is only 2 days away. However, I take issue with the framing of this teasing. The flashback shows just how hurtful the torment of Rainbow Dash got was, to the point where even the teacher is laughing at her. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, now that I have that out of my system, what made me raise an eyebrow was the tone of the voice teasing the Wonderbolts employed. The deep frowns on their faces and mocking laughter when they say the name Crash reflected this bullying so closely it is easy to see why Dash would take this as malicious.
I'm not about to defend the actions of the teacher. MLP seems to very rarely portray teachers well. From kicking them off clouds to just outright ignoring them, it seems that Cheerily is the only competent educator I've seen in the show so far. I feel the flashback was important, mainly for understanding both Rainbow Dash and the Wonderbolts' reaction to the situation. I feel Rainbow Dash's actions in this episode would not have been nearly as understandable if it wasn't a reaction to deep-seated trauma. And the Wonderbolts could never have known how badly the name hurt her because she never told them. The audience knows, but the Wonderbolts aren't mind readers. As for the Bolts' facial expressions and voice, I'm not sure I agree. While many of them were scowling, it seemed more in concentration than malice. There was a lot of laughter when they first gave her the name, and at the end when she messes up thoroughly, but I didn't recall much laughter in between.
Perhaps. One thing I did notice on my second watch through was how the attitude seemed quite inconsistent. One moment, half of the team was checking to see if she was keeping up with the routine okay, and the next moment they had these smug looks on their faces that just looks to me like they're rubbing it in. So granted it may not be as black and white as Dash tends to think things are, but given how this nickname is becoming more of a distraction than anything, it makes me wonder why no pony mentioned that there was going to be more teasing sooner.
For me, I think there were really only 2 occasions where I felt the malice was slightly uncalled for. One was when Rainbow Dash, upset by her name, crashes into a Wonderbolt and sends them both spinning into a cloud, and Surprise Pony or whoever basically told her that she deserves the name. That might have been a little harsh, but then she might have just been upset by the sudden spin-out she was just forced to endure. Right after Spitfire tells everyone to forget it and move on, one of the Wonderbolts lingers back to dwell on it for an extra second. That might have been a little uncalled for. Otherwise, I saw little laughter or anger when referring to her by her nickname.
I can understand this perspective. However, I think the intent is made more obscure by the writing, focusing so much on Dash trying to battle this nickname, that the audience's attention isn't drawn to these smaller details. We know by the end that the teasing goes to the same for every pony, but with a single brief mention of Soaring's nickname without a frame of reference, it's much less obviously insulting than Crash.
I disagree with that last point. In the context of flying, Clipper really has no other context. Rainbow says something about boating, but personally I believe it was obvious when Spitfire brings up the nicknames that Clipper referred to him clipping his wing, especially when we've literally seen him do so before. Not that I'm a fan of remembering Rainbow Falls, but you get my drift. They probably could have added in another hint, but for myself personally, I felt it was enough.
I think what didn't help was Rainbow Dash's methods of trying to get her nickname changed. I was so tempted to skip these moments when she was imitating her friends. It made me cringe so hard. What the buck was Dash expecting to happen by trying to be an impressionist pony? How was this going to change anything other than make her look even sillier? Dash is a mare of action, so her actions during the climax to me fit her character much better. Finding out methods of standing out based on her friends instead of trying to be her friends. And even worse, the imitations go on for so freaking long. They just kept going on and on, getting on my nerves. I almost wanted to destroy the world.
Cool your jets a little bit.
Thanks. I needed that.
Hey, I understand your frustration, but ending the world isn't going to stop this scene from existing. But if only it could. The imitation scene was hard for me to watch too. Almost as bad as Hearts and Hooves Day. The only really good things I can say about it are firstly how it ended. Not only the mere mercy of ending it in general, but also Spitfire basically going, "Knock it off, you're creeping us out." I thought it was a good acknowledgement to not only the Wonderbolts' pain, but the pain of the audience. And secondly, someone did point out to me that, as cringeworthy as it was, it did show off Ashley Ball's voice acting talent. Considering she voices both Applejack and Rainbow Dash, it couldn't have been easy for her to voice Rainbow Dash imitating Applejack without slipping into her Applejack voice. But yeah, not even the reading Rainbow joke could save that scene. I mean, she literally reverted to G3 Rainbow Dash.
Wow, you actually said something negative about this episode, and I didn't even need to use the rod of persuasion to convince you. That's a first.
Your eager willingness to affect free will is disturbing. Dial it back or it won't just be rain coming from that cloud.
Oh yeah? Just try to take me down, heathen.
I trust you won't try anything funny again, will you? Good boy. Back to the topic at Hoof, every episode has flaws. If I could remove that scene with a rusty carving knife, I would, but that doesn't mean the rest of the episode was bad.
Actually, I do have some positive things to say about this episode. Mainly how supportive Dash's friends are. The moment they realise how the nickname of Crash affects Rainbow, they try to help her to think of a way around it, recognising Dash's difficulties and supporting her 100%. This is a brilliant moment which shows the difference between the harsh working relationships of the Wonderbolts and her regular group of friends, the former of which needs these high standards in order to properly keep dangerous stunts safe and concordant. Plus, at the very least, we can recognise how this episode makes a distinction between bullying, as in One Bad Apple and Sonic Rainboom, and being able to laugh at yourself for silly mistakes, as the Wonderbolts do. Being able to laugh at yourself is part of developing a solid self-esteem, as it shows there is more complexity to everyday relationships and language. Not to mention, that banner which the CMC has made for Dash is just too adorable!
Okay then. Well, while we wait for him to come around, I must say that what I loved most about this episode was what it was trying to teach. I saw this episode as comparable to Hurricane Fluttershy, really. A pony getting over childhood trauma for the sake of the greater good. And it was trying to introduce that not all teasing comes from a place of animosity. It could actually be a way of depicting one's friendship, and I know many adults that could have served to learn that lesson in their youth. It also, although indirectly, depicts that one should be careful about the words they choose to use on others because it's hard to know what they've been through, and what may seem like a harmless name to one person can be very harmful to another.
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows. Right, back to reality. I appreciate what this episode was trying to do, but overall I think it was just poorly handled. The focus on Dash just doing everything to annoy the Wonderbolts underestimates how smart Dash actually is. I appreciate the fact that Dash retained all the knowledge she gained in testing 1, 2, 3, and I just wish she had more chances to use it. Maybe she could imitate stunts that these Wonderbolts are famous for, trying to improve on them. While this is hardly the worst episode of the show ever, there have been plenty of episodes that annoyed me far more. It is still below the average standards for Friendship is Magic, especially when so little of what is presented is there to suggest that the teasing was of good nature until the ending face heel turn. I give Newbie Dash a final rating of a C-.
On my own rating system, I give it an A for acceptable. It would have been exceeds expectations, but that imitation scene knocked it down a peg. I'll admit it has flaws, but at least it's better than things like putting your hoof down.
You know not what forces you trifle with, young Pegasus. I have more power than your puny mortal mind can possibly imagine.
I think I hear my laundry calling. Bye!
That has to be my favourite illusion. Anyway, what did you all think of this episode? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until the next time, this is the Nightmare Rider, Major Mind, riding out. Wait a second, the exit of my channel is behind me. Sweetie, you went the wrong way!
Stay back, or I'll use whatever this thing is.
Sweetie, no, don't touch that!